I started to understand that the physical reality is not as physical or as real as we've been led to believe. I realized that it is our soul, our spirit, our energy, our energetic state that is actually really powerful. And our physical body is a reflection of that state. Make your choices from a place that expand your energy. That's all you have to do. It's as simple as that. There will be things you have to do from time to time that deplete your energy. But as long as you are doing things that expand your energy, you will have the energy to expend on the things you don't want to do. But the question is, are you spending every waking day of your life doing things that are depleting your energy? If someone says to me that I am really sick, what is the first thing that you would tell me to start doing? And I said, the first thing I would tell you to start doing is start learning to say no. Say no to anything that you don't want to do. And that is so important.
Could you tell us a bit about that? Because it's so we don't say goodbye to our fathers, to our husbands, to our children in some cases, right? The reality is we lose people. So, or on this plane. So what can you tell us about that, Anita, when we feel so sad or scared?
Oh, there's so much I can tell you. See, even I'm tearing up right now as we're speaking.
Hey friend, I just wanted to thank you so much for stopping by and tuning into the podcast. It means the world to me. There are a lot of great podcasts out there, so it's truly an honor that you've decided to take the time out of your day to listen to mine. I'm really excited to bring on more and more inspirational guests for you. But before we get into it, I wanted to ask you a huge favor. If you're enjoying the show, would you please be so kind as to hit that subscribe button? I've noticed that over 98% of the people that watch our videos aren't subscribed, and subscribing really helps the algorithm put this episode in front of other people who it could help. And be sure to leave a comment sharing what most connects with you. So much love.
Anita Moorjani, the human miracle, is here. Welcome, Anita.
Oh, thank you, Susie. It's so lovely to be here. I love your vibe. Oh my God, what a welcome. I love it. Love it.
I have been looking forward to this conversation for ages. I read your book years ago. I reread it recently in preparation for this. And Anita, it's almost as if there are no words to describe you and your experience. Are you nearly 2 decades after your near-death experience? Is it still sinking in?
It is, more than anything. So the experience itself played out and it changed the trajectory of my life. What's still sinking in is the direction that my life is going and has been going. That takes a while to sink in because it's a gift that keeps on giving, shall we say.
Oh my, and I, rereading your book recently after the amazing, Dr. Wayne Dyer has passed and your experiences with him since then. And I just think, wow, it's so clear that you're here to do this work. I mean, the way that you grew up, your experience itself, it's just so clear to me. This is what Anita is here for, to show us how to live. Is that how you feel? Is that how you feel every day?
Weirdly, it is. It's so hard to express this. So I love it when people when you see it and when you're interested in knowing about it, because in my head, there's 2 things going on. It's like one part of me is so clear. This is my mission to teach this. This is why I came back. This is the reason I'm here. This is the reason my soul came into this earth. Then there's another part of me, not as loud, but it's there, that says, who do you think you are? How do you know not everybody feels this way? And, there's that still comes in from time to time. And also what it sometimes says is that not everyone's going to be interested in your mission, and not everyone's going to agree with you or believe you, or they're going to think it's your imagination. So that's the other voice. And then there's the clear, loud one that says, don't stray from your mission, stay the course. This is what you're here to do. Don't let people derail you. So yes.
Yeah. And Anita, I of course want to speak about your experience, but really that's the message that you received, isn't it? Living fearlessly, being yourself. I mean, I could weep, so, just thinking about this. But when you had your very unique experience, that's really to me, that's what you really left with, right? Anita, go live your life fearlessly, stay true to you. So that's the loud, dominant voice that you still hear.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so clear. I mean, the messages I get sometimes are they're quite incredible, but they're very unique for me. They're like really it is about instructions on how to stay this path, how to steer this road that I'm on. And it's
Mm-hmm.
really unique. And I've seen when I don't follow it, when I start to think that, oh, I'm making this up, and I start to derail myself, I start to see how it plays out. Like even my body, I develop symptoms. I get tired. I have trouble sleeping. I have trouble waking up in the morning. But
Mm-hmm.
then I have to remember, no, stay on the course, listen. But even listening to that is not, and this is what I want to be really clear about. Listening to that feels like me, I'm being me. Getting derailed feels like I'm worried about what other people are thinking. So that's the difference between the two voices. One is about what about everyone else? And you must think of how this is perceived by others. And that's the other voice. That's the voice that if I follow that too much, it derails me.
And this is almost like the philosophy behind Dying to Be Me, right? Because when you think about how you grew up, right, there was pressure for you to have an arranged marriage. What a woman looks like, she's a homemaker, she's a mother, and you wanted to travel. I love how you met your husband. It was just so meant to be. Oh my gosh, the universe is so amazing. I mean, I can see how you felt. You had all this fear, and you felt guilt, and you thought, "Gosh, I'm breaking out of this mold. I'm disappointing my family, my ex-fiance's family." There's all this. It's shrouded in so much heaviness. And okay, could we actually could we kick off with that, Anita? I mean, a bit about your background and what you think led you to this miraculous experience you had.
So my background is my parents are Hindu. I don't follow any particular religion, and even more so after I had the near-death experience.
Mm-hmm.
But my parents are Hindu, and they were grooming me for an arranged marriage.
Mm-hmm.
But I grew up and lived in Hong Kong, which at the time that I was growing up was a multicultural city, but the inhabitants were predominantly Chinese. But because it was a British colony, there were British schools, British expatriates. So my parents sent me to a British school where the teachers and the other students were all British. They were from the UK.
Mm-hmm.
So my peers, my classmates were all British, teachers were British, parents at home are Hindu. Most of the population outside, as I go out and about, are Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
So I had friends of all different cultures. My parents belonged to an Indian community, and their friends' kids were my friends. So I had a group of Indian friends. And my parents wanted to groom me for an arranged marriage because that was normal in my culture.
Mm-hmm.
And what that means is that I had to be, I'm going to say domesticated.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say it, it sounds a bit like domesticating an animal, but
Yes.
but I had to learn to do housework, and I wasn't allowed to go for higher education because higher education meant moving away from home. Women were not allowed to live away from home. They had to live with their fathers, with their parents, until they were married, and then they had to live with their husbands. And also, there was a very high chance that when you live with your husband, you're also living with your husband's parents and any unmarried siblings that have not yet moved out, which they wouldn't until they get married.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a marriage arranged for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that this is not what I wanted. I wanted to be free. I wanted to travel and work and earn my own money because my spouse's family would not let me work. And here's the other piece. in my culture, in the culture I grew up, there was a lot of gender disparity where men were, of course, favored over women. And our culture was built on the belief, and it was entrenched in us, that a woman's role was to serve the men in her life. And so the more you were subservient to the men, the more you were rewarded. In other words, you were rewarded for being subservient. And so I really believed that that's how it was. And then the other thing is that in terms of marriage, you were judged by how good you were at housework. I was innately terrible at housework. For me, it was a struggle, but I knew that if I had to do it for my survival, I would do it. But I didn't have this natural ability to fold, to fold clothes, clean. Yeah.
Yes.
So basically, I knew that my chances were really low, but I had to keep up appearances. So when I was engaged, I thought, oh my God, I cannot keep up this appearance for the rest of my life. I just can't do this. And I ran away. I literally ran away 3 days before the wedding. And we had gone to India for the wedding. From Hong Kong, we flew to India for the wedding. And I ran away, and it caused a huge scandal. And I mean huge. Because if you know anything about Indian weddings, they're like a week long, and they are booked months and months, years in advance, and months and months in advance. And everybody flies in from all over the world, relatives, friends. So everybody was already there. And literally 3 days before the wedding, I ran away, and I brought a lot of shame to his family, to my family. So many people were saying, don't be stupid. This is just cold feet. You've got to, be brave, show up at the temple. And I couldn't. I hid at a friend's house, a friend who supported my decision. And I was told by all the Indian people in our entire community all over the world that no Indian man would ever marry me after what I had done, that no Indian parents would let their sons come near me after what I had done. So, yes.
Wow. I mean, that's a move to make, right? 3 days before running. I mean, but it's like you had no choice, Anita. You couldn't do it. You physically could not move forward. And it's what's so interesting in the book is you speak about karma in the book. Right. And you share like thinking, gosh, I'm going to have to pay for this one day, or there's some wrongdoing on my part. Could we go to the day, Anita, where you're admitted into the hospital, you slip into a coma? I mean, everything that unfolds from there. For those who don't know the story, it's gripping like a Hollywood movie. Like this is how it's what you share, how honest you are. I just think, oh, Anita, like I wish I could have been like there. I mean, could you take us to that day and tell us a bit about what happened?
Of course. And it's funny you say it's gripping like a Hollywood movie, because literally 3 days ago, I just signed an agreement.
Oh my,
maybe, we are. If it goes through. So you know how these Hollywood things work out. Sometimes they never get made into the movie. But, if it goes through, I did sign something, an agreement for it to... Yes.
Well, Wayne is celebrating. I tell you, this is so cool. Wow. Oh my. Stay tuned, friends, for more about the movie. Wow.
So I had stage 4 end stage cancer. It was lymphoma, and it had spread throughout my body. And this is years after the arranged marriage fiasco. I had found my wonderful husband, Danny. And he's just amazing. And I got sick. I got cancer. There was a lot of other heaviness in my life, a lot of other things going on. Like my best friend got cancer, and then she died. So I got cancer. I had lymphoma, and I had these tumors the size of golf balls. Yes, from the base of my skull all around my neck, down into under my arms, in my chest, all the way down to my abdomen. And at that point, so I was dealing with this for 4 years. And at that point, when I was lying on my deathbed and slipping into a coma, by that time, I weighed about 85 pounds. I was purely skin and bones. I'm 5'4". And so at 85 pounds, I was purely skin and bones. My body had stopped absorbing nutrition. So my muscles had completely atrophied. I could not walk. I could not lift my head up. My head was hanging down on my neck. My neck didn't even have the strength to keep my head up. My lungs were filled with fluid. I had open skin lesions where the toxins were weeping out from my lymph nodes. And my organs were now shutting down. So I went into this coma, and I was in the hospital. My husband had rushed me to the hospital because I had been being cared for at home. And the doctors basically told my family, my mom was there. The doctors told my family that these were my final hours and I was now dying, and that I was not going to come out of the coma, and this was it. And they told my family my organs were now shutting down. We've just taken the tests for the organs, and they hadn't got the results yet, but they said everything is showing that the organs are now shutting down. She's not going to come out of the coma. But as I slipped into the coma, what the people around me didn't know was I had actually stepped into this huge open space that felt amazing. And I could still see, hear, and feel everything that was happening in this physical space. I could see my mom and my husband, and they were distraught. I could see the doctors and the nurses, and I could see them trying to get blood out of my veins to take more tests. And I could see the doctor put a needle through my chest to get the fluid to drain my lungs out of the fluid. I could see and feel and hear all of this happening here in the physical, but I felt no pain and no discomfort. Now, the last 4 years, I had been in so much fear, and the last couple of years, particularly, in a lot of pain and a lot of discomfort. And towards the end, it was unbearable because I had been unable to even lie flat because I would choke on my own fluid. And every time I would lie flat, I felt I was dying, just dying because I couldn't breathe. So I had to be propped up all the time. And now I felt free from this body. I felt incredible. All the pain, all the fear, all the discomfort was gone. And I felt incredible. And I wanted my family to know that I felt this, but I couldn't communicate with them because I had no biology. I had no vocal cords, no voice. And I wasn't seeing all this with physical eyes. It was more like a 360-degree peripheral awareness. I just knew everything. It's like having multiple eyes all around you and beyond. And I was aware that I was going somewhere bigger and beyond. And then I started to become aware of things like my brother was rushing to come and see me. He was in another country, and I was dying in a hospital in Hong Kong. He was in India at the time, and he was rushing to get on a flight to see me. And I remember actually feeling or being aware that I need to stay alive at least until he gets here. Otherwise, he will feel really guilty that he missed it. And I felt very protective over him. He's my older brother, but I started to become aware of other lifetimes that I had shared with him, where he had been my younger brother, and I was very protective of him. I became aware of other lifetimes I had with my family members, with my husband. And it was just incredible. But then I became aware that I was surrounded by beings I was surrounded by spiritual beings. They didn't have physical bodies, but I recognized some of them almost as if they were putting on a facade or were trying to appear to me in a way that I would recognize who they were from this lifetime. And for example, one of them was my dad, who had died 10 years prior to this experience. Another was my friend, my best friend, who had died 2 years prior from cancer. And then there were others who I didn't recognize from this lifetime, but I was fully aware that they were there to help me and guide me. And I just felt this incredible unconditional love from them. And I thought that my dad would really judge me for having run away from that marriage because I brought him so much shame, and all the people that said to him, I mean, the people just had said to him when it happened that your daughter is really spoilt, and who does she think she is? And that's what I've always lived with. Who does she think she is? Like, does she think she can get somebody better? And nobody's going to marry her now. And my dad had to deal with all of that from our society and from our community. And I had brought him so much shame, and I felt guilty about it. And my dad had been a very strict man, and I had always been trying to win his approval my entire life. And then I really botched it up with this one.
You really swung for the fences there, Anita. It wasn't a minor thing, no. You have to laugh.
But here I was on the other side, face to face, if you will, with my dad. And all I got from him was pure unconditional love, like no judgment whatsoever, like none. There was just pure compassion and understanding. Like he wanted me to know that he understood me. He understood why I did that. And all he wanted me to know was that he loved me unconditionally, regardless. That even at that time, he wanted me to know that even at that time, even when he seemed strict, he loved me unconditionally.
Oh my gosh. And Anita, so you're there, you're experiencing your father. I think Sony, that's the name of your best friend.
Yes.
Sony. You see your husband, your brother comes straight from the airport, right? He's in such a rush. Your mother's there. You can feel their pain, their panic. You want to soothe them, but you also want to go, I'm great. Like, I find this very reassuring. You know, I think, gosh, I lost my dad when I was 19. And I think, I really hope he's great. Because he had suffering, you know, he died from addiction and he was suffering a lot. And I think I want him to, like reading your words, Anita, I'm like, I really hope that that's my experience, he's great. He's doing great.
I am certain he is. And the thing is that a lot of people challenge me on this and they say, maybe that was just your experience. But I'll be honest, I really, really feel strongly. I mean, I would say for me, it's a knowing, but people don't like it when I say this is really the truth. But when you're there, you will realize that it can be no other way, because suffering can only be had here in the physical. Once you lose this physical body, it cannot exist when you have no physical body and you have no culture, beliefs, gender, religion. You have no baggage. You have no, I can go on and on, but there is no suffering. You have no illness. You have no judgment. So it is very, very different. It's so hard to explain. But if I could explain it right, if I could create a hologram where I could pick people up and immerse you in what it was like, you would realize that it's not possible to have suffering on that side. It's not possible to have a state of hell on that side. It just isn't. Because what is the point of putting spirit, our essence, our spirit, the part of us that is a facet of God? What is the point of putting that facet into hell? All those things are just the beliefs that we accumulate here to keep us, I guess, controlled or to keep us behaving a certain way or to instill certain lawfulness within us and so on. But it doesn't apply in the afterlife. As soon as you leave your body, the suffering is done. It's just done.
Wow. And Anita, when you're there speaking to your dad, and I know it's very hard to explain. So you say I spoke, but it's more of a feeling. So you're doing your best to explain this in the physical, right? In human on earth terms. But you said to your dad, "Oh my gosh, it's so great here. There's no pain." And you wanted to stay.
I wanted to stay, yes.
I mean, I don't blame you. It sounded so nice. But so tell us about that decision, so to speak, right? Because you said that there was a point where you felt like a different vibration. There was a point of no return. Your dad explained that to you too. Can you tell us about that? It's fascinating.
Yes. So I reached this point where I realized that if I stayed there longer and continued, I would not be able to return back. Like I'd reached this point where I had to make a decision, and no part of me wanted to come back. But it was my dad that said, your purpose isn't complete yet. You need to go back to complete your purpose. And I realized that my husband and my purpose was linked. And if I didn't come back, he wouldn't be able to complete his purpose either. So, and I realized that if I stayed on that side, he would also cross over. It could have been in months or maybe a year or two, but in terms of how it feels on that side, it would have felt like a split second, but he would have been there and he would not have been able to complete his purpose. And so I made the decision to come back, and I actually understood why I had got the cancer. It was a state of clarity. I understood how it was that all the thoughts and the decisions I had made in my life had led up to that point when I had got that point that I was there lying in that hospital bed dying. But my body was so sick that I kind of still wanted to know that, but my family is suffering, my body is sick. Why would I go back into a sick body? But that's when I understood that now that I knew this truth, that my body would heal very, very quickly. And I started to understand that the physical reality is not as physical or as real as we've been led to believe. I realized that it is our soul, our spirit, our energy, our energetic state that is actually really powerful. And our physical body is a reflection of that state. And so that's when I realized, or my dad said to me, now that you know the truth of who you really are, which is this powerful soul, which we all are, which is literally a facet of God, or if we can call it what we like, a facet of the universe or source. But my dad said, now that you know the truth of who you really are, you need to go back and live your life fearlessly. And when he said,
what a message. Everybody, you listening, live your life fearlessly. I mean, we don't want to arrive at that too late. We don't want to go, oh, I was so scared.
Exactly. The biggest regret you can have at the end of your life is that, oh, I didn't live my life fearlessly, full out. And when I say fearlessly, I mean fearlessly being yourself. It's about really being who you are fearlessly, unapologetically. And it's not about suddenly going and parasailing or bungee jumping if that's not your thing, and it's not. And people also misinterpret, and they say, oh, but if I allow me to be myself without restraint, I could be someone really horrible. No, you wouldn't be horrible, because that belief that you could be horrible, what that means and the message you're sending yourself is that who I am at my core, the source, the God source, the God facet of me is horrible. And it's not, because you are a spiritual being at your core. You were born from spirit and you will die back into spirit. And so it is about unleashing who you truly are at your core.
And that's what you were doing early on in your life, saying, I don't want to get married. I don't want to be this homemaker. I don't want to just, to have a child. I don't want to do it the way that I'm supposed to. And you felt guilt from that, right? And you say in your book, that when people say, well, why did you get cancer? And it's such a, and there are lots of points of view, I know, but you say fear was the underlying driver.
For me, it was fear. It was, and it's really, if you really want to hone it down, it was the fear of being myself.
Mm-hmm.
The fear. And so I ended up repressing myself. Mm-hmm. And you're like, when you're repressing your soul, then something has to explode. Mm-hmm. And what explodes is either it could be your personality explodes and you do become this horrible unleashed person, mm-hmm. not because you are a horrible person, but because you repressed the beautiful soul you truly are. Mm-hmm. Or in my case, my body developed cancer. That was its way of expressing.
Mm-hmm. And so, Anita, you have this experience, you come back, right? And everyone's shocked because that's it. It's been like called. It's like, she's out, right? There's nothing more we can do. And you recognize the doctor, you address him by name, you're familiar with your setting, and everyone's just surprised that you know so much, that you knew the conversations that were going on. Yeah. Could you say a bit about that?
Yes. In fact, I was, when the doctor, so I came out of the coma, and I was in the coma for a day and a half. And then I started coming out of it, and I started to say to my family, Dad is here. Dad is here. And I was groggy. It was like I had one foot on each side. And my family they were elated that I looked like I was coming out of the coma. And then they called the doctor who came into the room, and I recognized him. Now, he was the doctor that only started treating me. He was the doctor on duty after I went into the coma. Mm-hmm. So when I recognized him and called him by name, he was really surprised. He said, how do you recognize me? You were in the coma. And I said, of course I remember you. You're the doctor that took the fluid out of my lungs this morning at 4 a.m. And he said, but your eyes were closed. You were in a coma. And so he was completely discombobulated, flabbergasted. Mm-hmm. He didn't know what to make of it. But he still told my family that I was still in a critical stage. I was not out of the woods. I was not out of danger. And then he also said to them, it's not uncommon for people to drift in and out. So right now she might have drifted out of the coma, but basically don't raise your hopes that I would get well. Mm-hmm. After he left the room, I then said to my husband, to Danny, I said, he's the doctor that told you I won't even make it through the night till tomorrow, isn't he? And Danny said, how did you even know someone said that, let alone it was him? Because he said that outside, down the hallway, about 40 feet away at the nurse's station, and the door was closed. The door to your room was closed. There's no way you could have heard that. And I thought, wow, well, I did. I saw him. I saw him saying that to you. So these were the things that started to transpire. And then my brother was there, and I was expecting him because I'd seen him get on the plane. And I said, you made it. I'm so glad you made it. I knew you were coming. I saw you on the plane. So they couldn't make out what was going on. But within 3 or 4 days, I started to get more coherent, more clear. I was more exuberant. I wanted to sit up. I wanted to take out all the wires and the tubes. And the doctors couldn't make out. They just didn't know what to make of what was happening. And then they could feel these tumors were shrinking. They were like getting softer and shrinking. And about 4 or 5 days later, they took a scan and I was still very, very weak. I still weighed about 85 pounds and I couldn't get out of bed. So they bring the equipment to your bed, and then they said, oh my God, her tumors have actually shrunk by about 60 or 70%. They couldn't get over it. And in 3 weeks, they could find no trace of cancer.
And you knew this would happen, right? you were like, oh, I'm clear. Like,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
knew this would happen. Yeah.
I knew it. I was like 100% sure. I was telling everybody around me that it's not my time. Dad told me it's not my time. I have a purpose. I have a mission, and I just knew it was not my time. And then the whole time that I was in the coma, Danny was there. So Danny, my husband, bless him, he's so amazing.
Mm-hmm.
He had cared for me all the way through. He even lost his job because he
Yeah.
stopped going into work.
Mm-hmm.
And was there, just would not leave my bedside, was holding my hand and willing me to come back. And then later, when I told him that, did you know that your purpose and my purpose was linked? And he said, yes, I always knew that. And I said that, did you know? And I told him this. I said, I realized that if I stayed on that side, you would not have completed your purpose. And he said, I know. He said, my biggest purpose was to bring you back.
Oh my gosh, Danny. Oh my. And you said too, and because you speak about how time isn't linear, what you
Yes.
experience and how you saw other lifetimes with your brother, with your husband. I mean, I have the most amazing husband too. Like, and I'm like, God, and I said to him last night, I was like, I'm just so happy because we're always going to be together no matter what. Anita said so. And I'm like, I'm just really reassured right now because that's my only fear. I'm like, what if something happens to him? You know, we're so happy. So could you tell us a bit about that? Because it's so we don't say goodbye to our fathers, to our husbands, to our children in some cases, right? The reality is we lose people. So, or on this plane. So what can you tell us about that, Anita, when we feel so sad or scared?
Oh, there's so much I can tell you. See, even I'm tearing up right now as we're speaking. Oh, God, it still makes me emotional. So your loved ones are right here with you, your deceased loved ones. Literally, you can talk to them. I know because I was there, and you can talk to them and they can hear you and they help you. And now, because I know this, because I was there, I call on my loved ones and the people on the other side all the time, and I feel them. I hear them guiding me, and I feel them guiding me. And there's a couple of things that I want to say. I mean, there's just so much.
I know. We can stay here for 5 years. I know. Yeah.
Yes, we could. We could, you know, and so first of all, I would want people to know that you're not taking them away from something more important if you call on them. I would really want you to know that, because it is part of their it's part of their own evolution to help you. It really is. They are also evolving as they help you and as they guide you through whatever your mission or purpose is. And so you're not dragging them away from something more important. The other thing is that if you lost somebody like a parent and you have siblings who are calling on that parent at the same time, they can be in multiple places at once. They are not a three-dimensional physical being the way we are. We think in terms of three-dimensional physicality because that's all we know. We think in terms of linear time because that's all we know. But it's not the case. They can be at multiple places. Your parents can be with your siblings and with you at the same time. So don't hesitate. Another thing people ask me is they say they've been told that if they're still grieving the loss of a loved one and they're still calling on them, they're holding them back from moving forward into the next plane or into the light. That is also not true. That is absolutely not true. Again, it is part of their evolution to guide us, to help us, and they love it when we call on them. They really do. And they're there for as long as we need them. And part of their guidance is to help move us along. But they're not going to, but if you're not ready, they're going to be there until you're ready. But they are going to guide you and give you messages in a direction that's going to help you to move on with your life so that you can live your life fully and not have any regrets when you die. You know, there's so many other things I could tell you. Yeah. The other thing that people fear is that they say that my deceased relative, parent, whoever, was abusive. They abused me, and I don't want to see them. I don't like the fact that when I die, I'm going to the same place they are. There isn't a special place for abusers. So people say that a lot. And I always say, in fact, and this is going to probably shock a lot of people, but the ones that hurt you the most are the ones that are up there helping you the most right now.
Really?
And the people who cause the most damage on the planet are the ones who are helping the planet the most when they cross over, because they can see very clearly the repercussions of what they've done, and they want to reverse it. They want to help. And they can also see clearly how it was that they got derailed to fall in such a path. And usually there have been people in their lives who abused them or derailed them. So they can see, that's the state of clarity where you can see it all and you understand and you want to make it right from that perspective.
So if you were to lose someone now, Anita, are you completely at peace with it? Are you like, oh, I know that they're okay? Or are you still like a grieving mess, like whatever you'd imagine someone to be in a situation of loss? Are you, where are you?
I would still definitely grieve their loss here. And I would, for example, if I lost, I can't even think about it.
No,
If I lost Danny, and
I know.
I wouldn't want to be here anymore, because everything I do in my work, I mean, our work together is so entrenched. He is always behind the scenes helping me manage everything. And every day at dinner, we have breakfast together, we have dinner together, and all we talk about is just our lives together and our next trip and what are we going to do. And my life here, my physical life here would lose meaning if it was somebody like that. The people that are close to me, let's say even the people I work with who are part of my life every day, if I lost any of them, it would definitely affect me. If I lost my family members, like my brother, it would definitely affect me. But at the same time, one part would be at peace is that I know that they are fine. I know I can call on them. Like I lost my mom about 7 months ago, 7 or 8 months ago. And I grieved, of course, because I was very, very close to my mom. But I was able to move through it probably faster than a lot of people I know who have lost their moms, but it was still painful, very. I mean, I cried and things would trigger her memory. And I went to visit Hong Kong, which was full of memories of my mom, and everything would trigger me feeling sad. But I was able to get on with my life and my work. However, I don't think it would be the same if it was someone like Danny. I have to admit that.
Yeah. And do you think too that's because your life is entrenched together and you are meant to be here alive at the same time? And so there is a plan, however impossible it is to even fathom it. And you speak about this too, like the tapestry of our lives, the bigger picture. One thing, Anita, that I loved so much about your work, your book, what you share is, oh my gosh, this is, I think, probably my favorite takeaway. You say that we've lost the ability to see the magic of life. And oh my, I think look outside, it's all a miracle. And it's all like my Uber's late, my credit card bill, I'm so stressed out about this. Oh my God, my wife's nagging me. And it's like all these things. And I'm like, I think we're missing it. I think we're missing our lives.
Yes.
And you shared about how you drank champagne at a wedding after your recovery, and you're like, I'm living my life. They kicked you out of the hospital because you're having parties in there. I'm like, Anita, yes. Can we talk about the magic of life for a moment, please?
Oh my gosh, life can be so magical if we allow it, if we stop taking things so seriously and taking ourselves so seriously. What doesn't help is all the messages we're getting through mainstream media. It doesn't help. It makes us mistrust everybody, hate everybody who's not like us, just makes us fear the world, fear everything, fear disease. So that sometimes it drives me crazy. I don't like watching the news, and I don't care if people say, "Oh, you're just burying your head in the sand because it's still going on." And but it's like, no, I died and came back. I know what I'm supposed to do. And watching the news every day and believing everything they say is not on my agenda. It's not on. It shouldn't be on anyone's agenda who wants to live a happy, healthy life.
So when it comes to, day to day, I think, one thing that you shared too is we're also stressed out about work, right? We're so stressed out about money. And look, there are the practicalities of life, right? This we all know. But I think that so much of our energy goes to I don't want to say trivial things, but you also shared that, when you came back, it was hard for you to connect with people almost in the same way because they're talking about things that you just don't care about anymore. Yeah. Could you share a bit about that for a moment? Because I think that sometimes we can feel a bit weird if we're like, I don't want to talk about new bags, or I don't want to talk about the terrible things happening in the world. And I don't want to talk about the terrible tax situation that, we all find out, whatever.
Yes.
Can you just, because I think that we can relate.
Okay. So I'm going to share with you something that I usually, this is what I teach people in my workshops. Okay. So I'm going to give you something I teach people in my workshops. And I rarely share this in interviews. So I want you to imagine this. So this is one of the biggest things I learned, or I call it one of the biggest secrets I learned from dying from the other side, is that if you imagine that you are energy, that you have this huge energy field, and your energy is actually the bigger part of you. You're very powerful. Your energy is actually the bigger part of you and not your physical body. Your physical body is just the tip of the iceberg, which everybody can see. But who you really are is the rest of the iceberg, which is like 90% of the iceberg. So your energy is 90% of you. Your physical body is only 10% of you. So now I want you to think about this. Think about, just imagine that every time you are doing things out of obligation, out of duty, or doing things that you hate doing, or when you feel fear, when you feel depressed, all of these things, every single one of these things contribute towards reducing the size of your energy. Now, think about this. When you are at full energy, let's say your energy is at 100%, that energy is feeding your body. It's life force energy. It's feeding your body life force energy. And as you are pumping this beautiful 100% of life force energy into your body, your physical body is able to be healthy and vibrant. But as you reduce this energy, and you reduce it because you're feeling fear, you're buying into everything they're talking about on the news and so on. And you just believed a really nasty diagnosis. The doctor tells you you're going to die. That may or may not be true, but you believe it. So all these things, or you're fulfilling some obligation you really don't want to, or you're with somebody who is really rude to you, but you feel an obligation to still stay with them. All these things are depleting your energy. You're not aware that your energy is being depleted because you've never been taught to be aware of that. And then you're in this state of continually you're going into negative energy, but you're functioning. You're going to a job you hate that's depleting your energy. You're in a relationship that's depleting your energy. So think of all the things in your life, and you continue to do it because you think, I have to be realistic. I have to pay my bills. I have to meet my obligations. I have to take care, and so on. And then your body starts to have these symptoms because it has no life force energy. And then these symptoms, you start going to the doctor, going to the hospital. That negates your energy even more. Now, I want you to imagine that you have been taught this, you know this, and you have been taught Make your choices from a place that expand your energy. That's all you have to do. It's as simple as that. There will be things you have to do from time to time that deplete your energy. But as long as you are doing things that expand your energy, you will have the energy to expend on the things you don't want to do. But the question is, are you spending every waking day of your life doing things that are depleting your energy? No wonder people feel sick and tired and hate their life and think the world is negative and all of that. So basically, it's as simple as that.
And you talk about this in the book too, to a degree, about saying no when you mean no, right? Because it's easy to say,
Yes.
I want to do this fun thing. I got this cool opportunity, and you don't want to disappoint anybody, right? And you share about how you're an empath and how you have to protect yourself in that way. I mean, like, wow, oh my God, such good stuff from Anita. But I think to myself, wow, every time you kind of betray yourself in these mini breaches, even like, yeah, I'll go for coffee, but I really don't want to, or yeah, I'll collaborate because I feel like I kind of owe you because you did that thing for me 2 years ago. Or so it can be big things like going forth with a marriage that you don't want to, or mini things like a couple of hours spent here and there with the wrong people. Is that right?
That is right. And I actually, when people say to me, what would you say is the biggest thing that healed you? If I had to put it into tangible terms, let's not talk about the whole spiritual side and everything. But if I had to do something tangible, if someone says to me that I am really sick, what is the first thing that you would tell me to start doing? And I said, the first thing I would tell you to start doing is start learning to say no. Say no to anything that you don't want to do. And that is so important because I was the type of person who was such a people pleaser because it meant so much to me to get approval. That's how I was socialized. That was my culture. And I was socialized to win everyone's approval, especially my dad, and then after that, it would have been my husband. And it meant so much to me that I was unable to say no. And I was so subservient. I was such a doormat that even when I had cancer, pleasing other people mattered more to me than even taking care of myself. I would not want people to go out of their way to help me even when I needed the help, when I was sick and when I was dying. So I tell people that even having cancer wasn't the trigger or it didn't heal me from my people-pleasing qualities. It was death that healed me from that. And I don't want people to have to die to learn that. That's why I share my message, and that's my mission and purpose.
Oh my God. I'm so happy you're sharing your mission and purpose, Anita, and saying no. I mean, if someone thinks, what if I say no? What if I finally, transition out of this job that I hate, or I let my mother-in-law down, or I disappoint, my sister who expects me to always spend Thanksgiving with her and her really loud kids, like whatever it may be. Are we going to be okay, Anita? Because sometimes I think, well, we won't be provided for. There won't be another opportunity. Like the other side just feels too frightening.
Oh gosh, you're going to be more than okay. You're going to be better than okay. So here's the other piece I was telling you about your energy, right? And the more that you say no to the things you don't want to do, the less you're depleting your energy. That gives you space, because the more you're not doing the things you don't want to do, that gives you time and space to do the things that you want to do that expand your energy. Ask yourself this: what expands my energy? And it could be anything. It could be playing with my pets, going on a date with my partner, like literally whatever it is, just do what expands your energy. And save the things you don't want to do for when you have a monumental amount of energy and you have that energy to spare. That's when you do the things that you're like, okay, let me do this for them. But until you have that energy reserve, because so many of you are walking around with energy deficit, And that is the problem with your life. You need to get to a place where you have energy reserves. Not only do you have a full tank, but you have reserves. That's when you need to start looking at, okay, here's where I start doing this for whoever, whether it's the sister with the loud kids or whoever.
Yeah.
So here's what happens. When you have energy reserves, when you have a boundless amount of energy, what it does is that your aura, your vibe, becomes really huge. Your energy field is huge. And the bigger your energy field, and I'm going to say this, the easier it is for you to connect with the other side. Because the other side, it operates, and when I say the other side, I'm talking about our deceased loved ones. I'm talking about our guidance, our source. It functions on a higher frequency. And the bigger our vibe, the more we do things that raise our energy, that make us happy. That's the clue. You feel happy, you feel joyful. And the higher our frequency, the easier it is for us to receive communication from them. So you are basically doing two things when you are unable to say no and when you're fulfilling all the obligations. Number one is you're going into an energy deficit so that your own life is really, let's say, crappy, because you're not doing the things you want to do. You're doing your time and is filled with things that you're doing out of obligation. You hate your job, blah, blah, blah. So your own life is crappy. But the second thing is you are moving yourself further and further away from your connection with source and the people on the other side. It's harder for them to connect with you. Doesn't mean they cannot, but it's harder for them to find that gap, that space to connect with you.
Because we're closed, because we're contracted.
We're contracted and our energy field is down here. It's not expanded up there where they have so much space to get in and play with that and to open doors for you. That's the other piece, is that when your energy field is up there, doors open. And so I'm going to give you an example of, in my own life, what happened. So to give you an idea, when I came out of the NDE and I had to go back to my normal life, I realized I couldn't live life the way I used to because that was the person that got cancer. And of course, it annoyed a lot of people because I was not the same person. And people would say that, oh, you really need to do this or that, or you used to be like this and you're not doing this anymore. And I said, no, I can't. I have to now follow my passion, my joy, and find my purpose. And people would say, literally, they would say, it's unrealistic. You're delusional. You still have to do these things to pay the bills and to maintain your relationships and have good standing within this community that you're in. And I said, no, it doesn't matter to me anymore if I don't have good standing with this community. I can't help it. It sounds really selfish, but that was the person that got cancer. And I literally have two choices. Either lose my place in this community, career, blah, 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 or hold my place there, but get cancer again. So I said, I'm going to risk losing it all, have them judge me, have them say I'm delusional, all of those things. I need to do this. I had to downsize. We moved in a small place and so on, but I had to do this. And thank God for my husband, because he supported me all the way through this. And I just started writing and exploring, and doors just opened because all that mattered to me, because now I understood energy. All that mattered to me was to do things that raise my vibe, not go to a job I hate that's going to reduce my energy. And I started doing that, exploring, meeting new people who vibed with me. I started meeting people who I could talk to about what had happened to me. I couldn't talk about this in my old community. when I told them what happened on the other side, they said, yes, you had a spontaneous remission. Yes, you're blessed to be healed. But all that other stuff, it could have been the drugs that was messing with your mind. So I needed to talk to people. I was able to find people, talk to them, didn't feel crazy. I was able to express myself. I was so happy. And when I was at one of the highest points at that time to date, that was when Wayne Dyer reached out to me, and Hay House offered me the book deal. And then Wayne Dyer took my book, Dying to Be Me, to the stratosphere. He said, I want everybody to read this book. If they read one book, I am going to stand on stage and tell everybody this is the book you should read. And so my world just opened up. And now today I travel around and I do what I do. And so this is what I want to share with people. This is the point. Is that, let's say 10 years have passed since people have called me delusional at that point when this happened. Those same people from that same community, those same friends reach out to me and they say, oh my God, your life is so amazing. I envy you. I wish I had what you had. You're out there helping all these people. My life sucks. Why don't you come and help me? And I said, well, I can only help you if you're willing to be delusional.
Anita, you are expanding my energy field right now. I feel it. I'm so happy you exist. I'm so happy I came across your work through the incredible Wayne. I mean, like you said, the door's opening. It's miraculous, but it's meant to be this way, right? Like these things are meant to happen. I mean, Anita, last question for you, because really I could keep you forever and ever. When we're connected, we receive insights, right? We get this intuition. We're supported. There is only love that feels real. What do our souls and our deceased loved ones most want us to know?
They most want us to know, oh gosh, there's a couple of things, but at least the same thing. Literally, it is live your life fearlessly with passion, laugh, love. Those are the only things that's important. Love deeply, live passionately, laugh often. And I always say, eat chocolate.
Priority.
Yes.
Oh my God. Anita, thank you so much. Where do people go to check out your work, workshops? Of course, the book, must read, absolutely. But where do people go to find out more about you? Where's the best place?
They can find out all about me on my website, which is anitamoorjani.com. And everything is there, all my upcoming workshops. I have all the usual social media channels like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I think I even have a TikTok.
Yes. Anita, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. What an honor to spend time with you. Like, this is a huge, huge highlight for me. Thank you for being you, for doing your work, and for coming on the Let It Be Easy podcast.
Oh my God. I love your energy. You are so happy and joyful and such a pleasure to speak to. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Until next time, my friends, so much love and ease.